Hey everyone, welcome to this month's community call. We're excited to have you here. We haven't seen all of you in about a month, and we've been up to quite a bit. So, as you know, my name is Jesse Williams. I'm one of the project leads for open source KitOps, which is part of the CNCF. I'm joined by a handful of team members, and then we're going to have a few pop on as well. We've got Angel on, who's one of the main contributors to KitOps. He's also one of the maintainers. We've got Shive, who's part of our advocacy team, and we have Ram on, who Ram is actually new to advocating for the project, and yeah, he's been a huge help to us, just making sure that people know about KitOps and sharing about it, and he's going to present today. So we're excited to have him on. Ram, thank you so much for taking some time to join us.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Of course. So before we get into it, just a quick recap of what we've been up to here at KitOps. So August was quite busy for us. We attended KubeCon India. You may have bumped into Shive and some of the other DevRel folks over there. We also participated in the C10 CF event, which was part of a CNCF, smaller event right before KubeCon India, where actually you might have seen Ram give a talk. He gave a talk on how KitOps is very similar to Docker. I'm sure he'll go into it a little bit. And we have a lot of really cool things that are coming up as well. So we'll be at KubeCon North America. If you're around, we would love to see you. Stop by the booth, grab some swag, say hello. It'll be good to connect with the community. I know I'm really looking forward to it. Shive, if you want to unmute really quickly, Shive's actually got a handful of talks coming up. He's all over the KitOps community, but he'll be able to tell you exactly where you can find him because he's got some cool things coming up.
Yeah, thanks so much. So, as Jesse mentioned, that it is a really great first few days within August itself, probably the most active, especially considering that we had a really amazing meetup, and Ram was kind of like the chief architect with some of the folks from the CNCF Hyderabad. So, if you're joining in from Hyderabad, or maybe if you get a chance, definitely do attend one of the events. I wanted to give a huge shout out to not just Ram but also to Atul. So in fact, Atul, who is one of the leads for the CNCF Hyderabad meetup group, he himself was actively just spreading that, hey, you should go and check out the KitOps booth at KubeCon India. And a lot of people were being driven by his sheer enthusiasm around AI. So yeah, I mean, huge shout out to that community. I think this is very inclusive community for not just existing projects but also new projects like KitOps within the ecosystem. So that was great, and of course, like during KubeCon, we got to meet with a bunch of folks. We didn't have necessarily a talk at KubeCon, but I think in general there was a lot of great sentiment around being able to self-host large language models, or even like let's say we had discussions with companies that were trying to package together their own SLMs and either distilling it or maybe like fine tuning from large LLMs. So we saw interest from not just startups but also big tech companies. I'll not call the names, but there was a lot of interest around on-prem deployment and that like secure deployment, because as we're already seeing that. Because of all of the lashes that we see with all of these closed source models and the data privacy concerns that we typically see, we are also now having more and more interest in on-prem deployment. So I think like that KubeCon India was a great success in terms of just getting the word out around KitOps. And of course, I'm currently in Taiwan, where I presented a talk at COSCOP. It's a open source conference, pretty much like one of the largest open source conferences around in Asia after Fast Asia. And you get a lot of folks from all parts. We also had like the Ruby on Rails founder himself giving a keynote. So it's a great community as well. And there the talk was mostly about on the supply chain security side of things, which of course Ram, he kind of specializes in, but how you basically like look at S bombs and model attestation, and why KitOps is a great way to be able to like create those model attestations, right? So of course, probably Ram will have more to speak about that. It's great. Like I think we like to continue the momentum of KubeCon India. There is a lot of interest in this particular space. So if any of the community members also wants to conduct an event or maybe like have a discussion, you can join the Discord. But apart from that, we have KubeCon North America coming up. So I'll have a couple of sessions there. One is a co-located event around Argo CDs, Argo workflows. So how you can basically leverage GitOps with Argo workflows and build a robust MLOps pipeline. So this will be like really helpful for use cases where you're trying to deploy a model kit on Kubernetes, but you want to have a really good and solid CI/CD with Argo workflows. And then there'll be another talk around just more general around S bombs and model attestation. So of course we can like we'll be looking in GitOps as being one of the new open source projects that can help you with creation of these model attestations. So yeah, if you're around during KubeCon in North America, then you should definitely attend these talks.
Awesome. Shabbat, thank you so much. We're looking forward to that. Like I said, we'll have a presence there, both Jozu and KitOps. So stop by, grab some stickers, grab a shirt. We're excited to see everyone. Another really exciting thing on the KitOps side, this month we actually passed 125,000 installs for KitOps. So huge milestone for us. It's exciting to see the adoption that's coming. We've gotten to talk to several enterprises that are starting to use KitOps in production, which makes me smile. That's always exciting when you're a maintainer. If you are using it in production, you happen to be listening to this, we would love to hear about it. I know the CNCF loves to get case studies about how people are using projects. We would like to do it, and if you are going to be around for KubeCon North America, let's talk, because maybe we can get a talk that actually explores your use case around KitOps. So reach out. I'm sure everyone is a part of the Discord that's on here right now, but if you're not, you can join it, and then you can DM me or anyone else on the team directly. It's also a great place to grab some support. So yeah, reach out. We would love to hear about your specific use case. Okay, I'm going to actually pass it off to Angel to give an overview of some of the new things that we've been working on inside of KitOps.
Absolutely. Let me just share this slide deck I threw together. So how do I full screen this? That might be better. Oh, all right. Well, you can see my browser header. That's fine. So yeah, this is kind of the update since the last community call, which I think was late June. It's been about a month, as Jesse said, but it has been a summer month, so progress has been a little bit slower. I was away for a few weeks on vacation, and also we've had a lot of other stuff going on, so there's not a huge amount to report here, hopefully coming up soon. But instead, what I do want to talk is some of the community PRs that we currently have open and are working on reviewing and making sure they're good, that should be shipped in a future release in the near future. So that you can try those out. So yeah, the first one here is actually already merged. We've seen a lot of people who use KitOps run into issues where they try to push their model kit and it just doesn't work. Oftentimes, and the message is kind of cryptic. It says it's missing a reference. If you're familiar with OCI, if you're familiar with Docker, you can kind of read what that is. You're missing a tag, but it's still a common typing error that happens of, okay, this is my model. I don't care what the tag is. I'd like to just push it. And other tools like Podman and Docker will just default to latest. So the community member opened a PR and we've decided to do the same for Kit. You don't have to specify a tag. And if you don't, it'll just use latest. That works for pull, for push, for packing. So you can kind of pretend tags don't exist. You shouldn't, because they're still very useful, but if you happen to forget, it won't just blow up on you and do nothing instead. So that one is a merged PR. It's not in a release yet. We're working on collecting a few things that are in flight before we cut a release for this stuff. But hopefully this will be released soon. We've also got an open PR for shell completions. So this is something I've personally wanted for a long time because it can be very frustrating to, especially if the registry is long, type out the full registry over and over again for packing and for pushing. Ideally, like most things, you could just hit tab and it would autocomplete. Similarly for commands, although those are generally shorter. So there's a PR open that adds shell completions. I think we're currently reviewing it. I think Gorkum actually reviewed it recently. So we'll do a few more iterations on that, and then hopefully in the next release of Kit, you'll be able to just hit tab and it'll complete that big long AWS registry name that you're using for ECR, which has been my experience lately. A lot of copy paste, which is not fun when you're working in a terminal. Yeah, that's kind of it for the stuff that's in flight over the summer. As I said, it's a bit of a slower period right now. Hopefully, we'll speed up in the near future. But since I have a bit of time, Jesse gave me, I think, 5 minutes. I decided to do a bit of a dive into the K-serve integrations that I mentioned last time. Usually, when we talk about these things, we talk about, oh yeah, it's documented. Go read this README. That might be a little unclear, might be a little hard to understand. So I thought I would just go through this directly so that people can kind of see it in action or see what it should look like when they're getting this to work for themselves. So in a slide deck, a little tricky to show YAML because it's generally very vertically long, gets cut off. You'll see that on one of the slides. This here is the sort of default cluster storage container custom resource that you would create to enable KitOps to run model kits using Kserve. So basically, when you're starting your Kserve resource, you can use the kit prefix, and then it'll pull a model kit automatically and work. This by default will work great for public registries. You can add a kit username and password for private registries. But if you're running on something like Google Cloud or Google Kubernetes Engine GKE or on Amazon EKS, you're often setting up connections to the Google Container Registry or the ECR Elastic Container Registry, I think. And that stuff is automatically injected into the container. You don't actually use a password. You just set up a service account and set up connections so that service account can access the registry. So we've had some community users who are using AWS and Google respectively add integrations to the Kserve container so that you can very easily set this stuff up, assuming you've done all the background stuff of setting up the service account to allow access. That's, as we found recently, that's usually the tricky part in setting these things up. But once you get that done, it can be pretty easy. So this is the default, what you would generate. You can add resource limits and other stuff here. I've omitted that just so that it's not super long. So if you did want to enable AWS, or we'll start with GCP. If you wanted to enable access to GCP, you just add these two environment variables. The GCP workload identity federation is what that stands for. You set that to true, that'll enable the GCP functionality. And then you can add the Google Artifact Registry location environment variable to which region your model kits are stored in. If you add these two things, then it should just automatically pull in those credentials from the cluster, read them from Google, and authenticate automatically. You don't have to do anything else. It's very secure. You're not dealing with passwords or anything like that. You're really leveraging what Google provides in GKE to make life a lot easier. So this is all you really have to do on the Kserve side once your cluster is set up to get it working with GKE. And similarly for AWS, all you need to do is set a region, and assuming everything else is set up, the container will automatically read your credentials and be able to pull from ECR registry within the cluster and start up a container. So I think these are great additions, especially if you're finding a friction point in how you use Kit. If you're trying to use Kit in a real environment, feel free to open an issue or a PR. We love to take looks at things like these. This is the sort of thing that if it was up to me, it would be pretty low on the priority list because I'm not actively working with these technologies right now, but someone who is can kind of push us towards the things that would help them the most. Without any community feedback, it's kind of hard to know what would be interesting or useful to the community. So it's great for that. And yeah, that's it for today. I guess I'll pass back to Jesse.
Awesome. Thanks, Angel. Yeah, great update. Um, so one last thing that we wanted to go over before we hand it off to Ram. We actually have Brad on. As many of you know, there's a specification that we've been working on inside of the CNCF called Model Pack, and we wanted to give a quick update on that.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let me quickly share my screen. So for those that don't know, obviously KitOps was the first widely available open source project that would take your AI/ML project and turn it into an OCI artifact that you can store in your container registry. And when we started doing that at the beginning of 2024, it was pretty unusual. And I think sometimes people were scratching their head, but I think pretty quickly people began to realize the power of doing that. And so since then, we've kind of seen the project grow, of course. And the thing that we always wanted to do from the beginning, we talked about when we started the project, was we wanted to create a standard because it seemed kooky to us that in AI/ML, you didn't really have a packaging standard the way you do for applications and the way you do for so many other things. And so, kind of, I guess, towards the end of last year, very beginning of this year, we really began to work in earnest within the CNCF and specifically with a few other organizations like Red Hat, PayPal, Ant Group, to build out a specification for doing this so that different organizations could create their own tooling, whatever that tooling should be, that made sense for them, that would be compatible with each other because it all adheres to that spec. So this is called the Model Pack specification. You can see the repo here. This is a CNCF project. And it really goes through and tries to define exactly what the behavior for these types of tools should be. KitOps is effectively the kind of first reference implementation of that. And if you're familiar with KitOps, you will see that about 95% of the Model Pack specification looks pretty much identical to KitOps. So first of all, I'm just super excited that we here at Jozu and the KitOps community have been able to kind of lead so much of the market's thinking in this area, and really excited to have folks like a Red Hat and a PayPal and a Docker kind of paying attention and kind of going into that same direction that we are. So for those who have been working a little bit with KitOps, especially if you've contributed to the community, huge thank you. All of you are kind of part of why this has happened. But I'm very excited about the future here because I do think that you're going to start to see more and more tooling built for this Model Pack spec, making it compatible with KitOps, making it compatible with Jozu and a number of other tools, so that you can kind of have that that optionality to change what tools you're using, where, and for what reasons. That I think has been missing a little bit from AI/ML, where it is a lot of kind of walled gardens. So. Again, thank you. Kudos. If you haven't taken a look at the spec and you're interested, please do leave us any feedback and via issues.
All right. Thank you for that overview, Brad. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. We have several team members that are monitoring the chat, and yeah, if it makes sense to address it on the call, they'll let us know, and we can answer all of your questions. On that note, Ram, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you so much for taking some time to join us. I'm excited for the conversation we're about to have.
Sure, Jesse. It's been one of the more interesting projects that I've demoed recently, and I've gotten like tons of feedback and spawned a lot of thoughtful conversations with people that saw this, both sort of very experienced and some people who were born in the AI age kind of engineers. And so what I have today is just a compilation of some of these conversations in a format that is slightly more consumable. So I intend for this to be a discussion of sorts, or at least we can discuss things. But let me get started. Once again, thanks for having me. And I'll start with this. Somebody very famous once said something very famous. But obviously, Uncle Ben was not a part of any open source community because a lot of like open source work feels like there's really not much accountability that goes around. and you're at liberty to have extremely free ranging opinions. And so a lot of the conversation and a lot of what I'm presenting today is about taking this open source project, showing it to a bunch of people, and also in a lot of time that I've had, I've just had so many thoughts around this, and I've just uh, pre-wheeled a lot of things into a wish list of sorts. And this entire presentation is obviously me talking about things that I'd like to see, with no empathy towards the contributors and maintainers of the project, but it's also an observation that has stemmed from conversations, like I said. So it's real, it's from the community. I'm sure it will be valuable. And as we go along, if people want to participate, you can give me a thumbs up to either validate what I say, or you can, you know, please feel free to disagree, which I again consider like one of the big things about being part of an open community. I come from a background of cloud infrastructure. I am an out and out infrastructure guy. I don't do a lot of app development. I am not involved a lot with really putting applications on production, but I've always been a person that has supported people that put applications on production. And I love to maintain large infrastructure pieces and make sure that the lights are running for the app devs, and none of the app devs are complaining, and therefore none of the users are complaining. So I sit two levels below users in a way. And yeah, as you can see, I love a dark basement more than anything, and that's who I've been all the time. And recently, I felt a bit of FOMO because all of the people around me have been talking about these fun stuff around AI agents and MCP and these fancy applications that you can build with AI recommending what kind of underwear you should buy next, etc., etc. And here I was, not having a clear path towards, okay, what do I do in this AI world? And when this project came along that said, hey, if you're trying to publish models into production and put models in production and make AI available for other engineers to use, etc., it's a great path. And so it followed all these paradigms and patterns that I knew about, and that's really what pushed me towards KitOps as a project. And what inspired this presentation is really stuff that I picked up as I went along. So I played with the project. I loved what it had to offer, and I showed this to a bunch of people in a bunch of different events. And then along came this, thinking that wait a minute, I've seen this before, and there's so many ideas here that come from other ideas that have been solved before, and other problems and things like that. And so, take for example, years ago, this whole notion of 12 factor applications that really defined here's how you should structure an application in order to take advantage of cloud resources. And this was back in the day of services and things like that. And so it was structured so that you write services instead of monoliths, and then you break up your application into distributed pieces and things like that. And in the cloud native world, I saw an open application model, or the OAM spec float, and which is kind of similar to what 12 factor had. And with KitOps, I saw them define what is known as model pack that Brad just spoke about a few minutes ago. And also more recently, I was introduced to the cloud native AI model spec, which is another specification for how best to model is probably the wrong word, how best to create a paradigm for using AI models and for ML models that can be put into production. And so I was really inspired by this, and it paved a path for, okay, if model pack and the cloud native model spec is what this team is working on, and that's been inspired by 12 factor and OAM and all of that stuff before that, maybe there are other things in this, in the purview of KitOps and all of the other things that they're pushing forward. And that's what I've tried to sort of piece together in terms of what I've heard and what I've seen. So um, if you heard of this, if you like it, show us some support. Like Brad said before, it's all open source. Come check out all of that stuff and see if you like it, and show us some love if you want this to move forward. The first thing I'll touch on are signatures. Now I know a bunch of work has been done to integrate some form of signatures into the whole notion of uh, a model kit. And I know you can push like signatures using model kit to the registry. And for those who are not familiar with signatures, they basically are artifacts that allow you to verify where a particular artifact came from. So they delve in the realm of attestation and provenance and trust and all of these little pieces that come together to provide the larger fundamental unit of software supply chain security. And they're quite critical in this age of AI models where it's hard to kind of verify where a particular model came from and if you should trust that model, and if you should continue to trust that model while it is in production and things like that. So they're a way of creating a chain of trust inside your entire org. And I think it occupies a particularly distinct position in the case of AI models. And the reason I say that is because it's not easy to maintain a level of trust both during build time and runtime. It's probably a lot easier during build time to know what you can trust and what you can allow. It's kind of simpler during while admitting this into production, but once you productionalize something, if you want to continue to maintain trust during runtime, there needs to be a better way to manage signatures, and there need to be workflows that say continue to monitor for these signatures and things like that. And one of the other things I did observe is if you look at this example of all the things that are inside a demo uh, artifact, for example, and if I have some public keys in there, and if I create the kit file and try to create change this into the model kit, it does not necessarily take into account signatures. So maybe that's something that we can include while creating the kit file. So expand it to include any key pairs that exist, if that makes sense, because it will definitely be used to verify the model kit uh, at times. So these are things that again I was experimenting with and playing around with, and it occurred to me that maybe there's more we can do with signatures than just verification and things like that. And also, I think there's other projects like Notary and Ratify that are also part of the CNCF space. So signatures, in my opinion, should be a more of a generic within the ecosystem and not something very specific to just one project that offers signatures. Again, this is something I obviously feel quite strongly about, but I'm happy to hear other opinions as well about whether people like this, whether people don't. Um, Again, if this should or should not be a priority, for example. And I think one of the best applications for signatures comes in the form of admission control. So what models you allow and what models you don't, and for reasons best known to the ops team. And so admission control, I think, is like the next big use case for me in terms of this becoming um, a feature. So because we build on the basis of OCI containers, I would like to see policies written that either admit a model or deny a model because of the nature of all of the different pieces that are in the model kit. Now, because of what KitOps does in terms of its packaging, we are now able to see these artifacts as a transparent single source of truth. And previously, we were not able to do that because all of the artifacts were in disparate places. And now it's an OCI container, and we should be able to write certain policies with what is known as the common expression language. And this is a format that is adopted by the community at Kiverno. Obviously, the open policy agent is also a big part of the community, but I kind of lean towards Kiverno as the more modern and the more current standard. And so we should be able to write some expressions that allow us to determine if a model which is part of a model kit should be admissible in production or not be admissible in production, etc. So it should be relatively easy to try and get to those policies. I've done my first experiments with this. I'm happy to report some good results, and hopefully, I'll be able to publish something very soon that sort of does cell expressions that allow us to do some admission control on models that are part of a model kit, thanks to all of the metadata that's available, but largely also because of the OCI artifact that we use as fundamentals. Again, show us some love if you'd like to see more of this. I'm obviously happy to hear opinions that are otherwise as well. And in the CNCF ecosystem, the other big theme is instrumentation. And obviously, the word that we love to use in the CNCF domain for all kinds of uh, monitoring is observability. So, are we talking metrics, logs, traces kind of observability here? Are we talking something that's new? What kind of metrics and instrumentation are available for somebody doing any kind of ML ops is what I'm driving at here. So this might not be a concrete implementation yet, but if it's within the scope of the community to try and define what observability would look like in the MLOps world, I think the entire community will benefit from some fundamental groundwork that people can do, not different from some of the model pack and other model specifications that we're trying to define. Um, I, I, I I also love the Dora project and I like what it's done for the DevOps community. And I'd love to explore if there is a way to sort of shoehorn that or retrofit a lot of the Dora metrics to the MLOps world as well. So that can lead to a potential direction there. And again, this is something that I'm thinking about, and I'd love to, like I said, hear thoughts from other people in the community. Lastly, everybody dreams of going to work in a red vehicle, but the reality is everybody does go to work in a slightly different kind of red vehicle. So my opinion is there scope for building out the whole platform experience with KitOps? And a project that I've admired or a product that I've admired for a long time has been Heroku. And so is there a possibility of Herokuizing MLOps using KitOps? Because in my opinion, I think we're about halfway there. And every demo that I do, starts with here's a model kit, here's how it's pushed to a container registry, and from a container registry, here's how I pull it, or here's how I go into the jozu.ml registry and use the deployment options there, and here's how I can create a very quick Kubernetes based deployment. So all of those pieces kind of make it feel a little less smooth, but also like inspired by the Cloud Foundry or open source do-it-yourself alternative for Heroku. There's a lot of different moving pieces, but can we bring all of these together into one piece that can provide like a golden path for MLOps people with all of the KitOps goodness uh, as the foundational pieces, and then just build out some of the parts that are missing and create that end-to-end path where people who want to productionalize their AI or ML stuff are having that experience of just specifying which of their, I guess, model they want to they model kits they want to use in production, and there should be a way where it's deployed onto production, comes back with a URL instead of us creating those tunnels, blah blah blah. So I think there is definitely scope for this, and hopefully people in the community will agree with me. So yeah, it was fun thinking up of all of these fun schemes, obviously. But you know, talk is cheap, and people would love to see the code. KitOps socials, if for those who are interested. But thank you so much for having me today, and I'm happy to hear opinions and spawn conversations on different social media pertaining to this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ram. That was awesome. I think those are all great areas that are worth exploring for the team. So I love your vision for it. Um, yeah, we'll see how it goes. And thank you so much for all the contributions that you made, really to the advocacy part and building awareness of KitOps. So thank you. Um, yeah, so we're basically at the end of our call. If anyone has any questions, I know a few of you are active in the chat, but we would love to take questions if you have any. Um, and if not, we'll hang out for another 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll hop off. So thank you so much for joining. All right. It doesn't look like anyone has any questions. So, thanks, team. Ram, thank you so much for hopping on with us today, taking some time out of your night to join us. Shivai, it was great to see you. Angel, thank you for the overview. And Brad, it's always good to have you on the calls as well. So, we look forward to seeing everyone. If you want to stay informed on what we're doing with KitOps, we encourage you to join the Discord server, and we also do a monthly newsletter. All right.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much, Ram. That was an awesome presentation. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.